Congresswoman, jump in here and explain to me. Now, California is not a swing state, we don't think, in the presidential race, but you must be at the epicenter of this because you're in a district with a heavy Latino voting. How do people feel about this sense that we're trying to make it hard for Latinos to vote?
Well, not even that. I mean, I sit here in Orange County, California, which traditionally has been Republican, and I'm the one Democrat of the 6 that is sent to the House. The others are Republicans. So traditionally over time, we've seen voter suppression schemes, if you will, right here in Orange County. In 1992, I believe, the Republican Party here dressed up people as INS agents and stopped Latino voters at Latino majority precincts, asking them for national voter ID cards and turning them away from the voting booths before they got to the voting booth, saying that if they didn't have a national voter ID card, they couldn't vote. Certainly, I believe that I'm the only federal official or congresswoman that currently has a former opponent 4 years ago who is now serving prison time for voter suppression of the Latino community here in Orange County when he was running against me. So, you know, we are very cognizant of trying to get people to go and vote and of the blocks, the blockades, the obstacles that are put in people's way.
Now, Penda, the good news, I suppose, if there is good news, is that courts are beginning to strike down some of these statutes as unconstitutional. In Texas, even in Pennsylvania, some litigation success, but the effort continues unabated on the part of the Republican leadership that is recognizing that it can't succeed against this tidal wave of new voters who are not lining up with the Republican agenda. So where do you think this moves next? There will be litigation. Will these statutes remain on the books in multiple states? What will happen next?
Well, the courts have been very active this year, and for the most part, they have come down on the side of voters. And so we're very pleased that the Wisconsin voter ID was struck down by 2 courts. The Pennsylvania Supreme Court recently sent the case back to the lower court with a very strong indication that the law should be struck down unless the court finds that everybody who wants this ID can get it. And we know that at the Department of Transportation in Pennsylvania, it's not true that everybody who wants the ID can get it. We know voters who've gone back multiple times and have been turned down. As you mentioned, the courts in South Carolina, the district court struck down the law from Texas, and the court is now considering a law from South Carolina. In addition, on the voter purge issue, the courts are proceeding to consider these issues, and Florida recently stopped using the flawed purge list and agreed to send letters to over 2,000 voters telling them, sorry, we made a mistake, you're actually a citizen and you're allowed to vote. So I believe that the courts are stepping in because they see that politicians are manipulating the system, and this is not normal election administration.
Now, it is the case, and as somebody who's spent most of my career in the world of courts and the law, I got to tell you, it's comforting to see the courts providing that final bulwark in favor of the right to vote, as they well should, but we still need legislation. And Congresswoman, there have been some very simple ideas. One uniform voting file, same-day registration, the ability to vote by mail, given the complete absence of any evidence of voter fraud in those areas. Is there any national movement, any sense in Washington that these would be good things to do?
Well, certainly we have put forward as a Congress, especially the Democratic Party, some of the very things that you're talking about. Same day, there are bills for uniformity across on a national election. We saw, for example, with the Gore election, that each state and actually each county does things differently in each state, and so more uniformity would be important. But unfortunately, at least in the House of Representatives, we never even get those into committee because they're controlling it, and of course, it probably doesn't behoove them to enlarge the circle of voters who come to vote.
Right. Now, there's no question, as I said at the top just a few moments ago, there are 2 ways to win an election. Either you get the most votes or you keep the ones who are not going to vote for you from voting. And unfortunately, the latter is becoming part and parcel of our everyday politics. But I got to say, it is just so frustrating to watch. But on the other hand, Congressman, let me ask you an overtly political question. Right now, the polls are breaking 70-30, the Latino vote breaking in favor of President Obama. Those numbers make it almost impossible for Mitt Romney to win. Do you see anything that will shift that vote?
Well, certainly a pledge to do things differently than what the Republicans have been doing towards the Hispanic community. But I don't see that coming. I mean, I think that Mitt Romney came out of a primary even more hardened and more to the right, and that he doesn't appeal. He does not appeal to the Latino voter on a lot of issues, whereas President Obama has done several things recently in particular that has shown the Latino community that he wants to serve us, that he wants to be our president. And I find it very hard for Mitt Romney to move those numbers, be they 70-30 or 68-32 or what have you. He has to significantly move those numbers. And in particular swing states, if you're looking at Nevada, if you're looking at Arizona, Texas, Florida, Pennsylvania, Ohio, there are 3, 4, 5% in some of those states, and that's going to be the difference of a victory in those states.
No, he's not going to do it. He's standing next to Jan Brewer. He says the right words, and then he does all the wrong things. Simply not going to happen. That's because he's the most awkward politician in history. All right, co-director of the Advancement